In this video, I'm going to show you 5 of the best ways to drink dark rum. And I'm also going to answer the question, what exactly is dark rum? So for me, cocktail 1 has to be the Jungle Bird. Of late, as I've got slightly older, I've got really into these kind of bitter, sweet cocktails. So to make it, you want 50ml double bubble of your dark rum of choice. And then you want your bitter. Now, for most people, this is going to be Campari, but I've fallen in love with a local distillery to me, literally 10 minutes down the road. They're called Vault, the Saffron Walden, just south of Cambridge. And this is an incredible bitter. So we just want 15ml, 1-5. A 50ml double bubble of 100% pressed pineapple juice, 15ml of lime juice. And instead of your normal sugar syrup, I'm actually going to be using this in a couple of cocktails. I want to swap that to agave syrup. So I'm just going to do 10ml, but it is a just a taste of this agave. And then just strain that out into your favourite sort of 14-ounce highball over fresh ice. And I think to garnish this, just a nice fresh sprig of mint, then a dried pineapple slice from Frona. Now, as I say time and time again with this cocktail, if you are put off by Campari, please don't be. If this is the one cocktail you try that has Campari or an alternative bitter like I've used, then make it so, because this is an incredible cocktail. That sort of bitter element with that lovely luxurious rum that comes through there, but the pineapple juice that softens that blow. I just think I love those sort of bitter sweet cocktails. This is fantastic, and there is one coming up in a minute, but I would say my cocktail, out and out shaken cocktail, this has to be my favourite dark rum one. Now, if you like me and these videos provide you with value, then please do hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Now, dark rum cocktail number 2 for me has to be the Queen's Park Swizzle. If I was talking about riffs on this cocktail, then it would be up there as one of my out and out favourites. And talking of riffs, my membership community are going to get 5 bonus recipes on this, riffing up these cocktails. So that's in the membership community. But the Queen's Park Swizzle in its original guise is still a fantastic, fantastic dark rum cocktail. I mean, for me, this is virgin on a mojito. To a lot of people, this would actually be mojito. But my affectionate term for this is the grown-up mojito, because I think it's got more bigger and bolder flavours and not those sort of light, sort of minty flavours that you would expect from a mojito. So, first things first, 8 to 10 mint leaves. I go a little bit heavy, I go 12. Spank them, and then just dump them straight in your glass. For my recipe in this size glass, which is about 14 ounces, I want 20ml of lime juice. Then again, I'm swapping the brown sugar in this case for agave. I think agave is really underrated in a lot of cocktails, and it's a great swap. Then we're going to add a decent amount of crushed ice, 25ml of your dark rum of choice. Give it a quick churn to combine those flavours. Top up with more crushed ice. Another 25ml of your dark rum. Then again, another quick little churn. And I think this process really does add to the cocktail. If you did the whole 50ml, it's just something about the dilution you get by sort of churning it 2 or 3 times through this. A bit more crushed ice just to crown it. And then I know the vast majority of you are going to use Angostura bitters, and of course do that. However, I've got a brand here, Miss Better's Bitters, and not all aromatic bitters are the same, but I really, really love these. There is no right or wrong, just have a play. These will give you a slightly different now. I'm not worrying about drops in this. I'm actually going quite heavy, and I'm going to do 2 half pipettes. But you know, a lot of time with the Queen's Park Swizzle, some people will go really heavy, 4, 5, 6 dashes of Angostura bitters. Do you? Your bitters are your seasoning. And I've got a couple of mint sprigs here. I'm just going to complement that with the dehydrated green lemon from Frona. Now, loyal viewers may remember a riff I did on this before Christmas in another video, probably November time. And that, again, I just swapped the agave or the brown sugar, as I would have done originally, for a different flavoured kind of syrup, and it was really, really good. And that's the riffs that you can do with this. But in its own right, the Queen's Park Swizzle, it is that grown-up mojito. You've got bigger, bolder flavours going on there with that mint. And the bitters for me really kind of, you've got cinnamon and sort of toasty, those kind of nutmeg and all those kind of like tropical seasoning that you would expect from bitters in those aromatic bitters from Miss Better's. Fantastic. So then let's answer that question. What exactly is dark rum? Because dark rum will mean very different things to very different people. And yes, there is a right and a wrong here, but unless the rum education is globally known, not many people are going to realise this. So let me kind of talk you through the 3 different ways people are classifying, or I think the 3 different ways people are classifying dark rum. Now, I don't mean this in a derogatory sense, but if you are a rum geek, if you class yourself as a rum geek where your knowledge of rum is far superior to mass market, then you would know that actually to most people, dark rum is actually rum that has been aged in heavily charred barrels or intensely charred barrels. Basically, when you age rum or whiskey or whatever, they kind of go normal sort of oaky level, normal oak barrels. But actually with cooperage, you get different levels of char, basically flames, fire that goes into barrels to kind of reseal it and stuff. And the longer you have fire going in there, and I'm only talking less than a minute, but there are certain grades from 30 seconds up to, I think it's 55 seconds, but there are certain grades. And the longer you put flames into a barrel, the toastier that barrel is going to be, or the heavily charred barrel that it's going to be. Now, these rums might only be aged for 4 or 5 years. They're not longer aged rums, but they do take on those flavour profiles from those charred, burnt notes of the barrels. Now, I'd say if you're a more casual rum lover, and I would term mass market is this, to you, and I have to say a lot of ways, like wholesalers, online wholesalers, especially here in the UK, class dark rum. It's just rum that's been aged up in oak barrels. Obviously, something like that, without getting too in depth, is lighter than the 3 stars. Therefore, that becomes a darker rum. And yes, they do call it OD. It is a dark rum. But, we get another brand. We've got Chairman's Reserve down here, for example. Wrong one. Put the wrong one away. But if you're comparing like for like, then obviously that is darker to white rum. So to a lot of people, dark rum is just aged rum. However, there's also a little bit of trickery going on in rum world as well. And this is what a lot of people don't realise, because if we are talking super mass market and those darker rums that call themselves dark rums that you would find, especially here in UK supermarkets, I think 9 times out of 10 is a little bit of an exaggeration, but we can definitely probably go 7 times out of 10, if not higher. They are actually just white rum, unaged, white rum, as young as, literally off the still and rested for a few days, that has simply been coloured up with caramel colouring to give the illusion that it's a dark rum, that it's been aged. But in actual fact, it probably hasn't. It is mass market, cheap, poor quality white rum with caramel colouring added to it. It's as simple as that. Now look, I'm not going to get into certain brands or anything like that, but the general consensus is whatever dark rum you pick up, the flavour profiles you would expect to get are more toastier notes, more luxurious notes, maybe even more vanilla notes coming off that, maybe burnt toffee. But I think the key point to note here is that those cheaper dark rums will probably be a lot sweeter. More sugar will have been added to them to simply mask the quality of that cheap, coloured up white rum. Now, of course, while I'm standing here and making you 5 cocktails that I think you should try with dark rum, especially here in the UK, 90% of dark rum is actually consumed with 2 of your favourite mixers. The obvious one, the biggest one, being rum and Coke. Dark rum for me is the best thing to mix with Coke. I prefer dark rum with Coke. But then actually, do you know what? One of my favourite simple highballs is dark rum and ginger beer. Or to go the extra kind of, I haven't got any lime wedges here, but we can go a little squeeze of lime juice, probably go a couple of lime wedges, and then your aromatic bitters. Or for most of you, as I say, Angostura bitters. This ultra simple highball deserves to be loved by everyone. I actually think ginger beer should be a bigger deal than rum and Coke with dark rum. However, the Dark and Stormy is a mass market drink. It's flipping tasty. Now look, if you don't want anything sort of long, a highball, anything with juice, then for me, the go-to way to drink dark rum would be the corn and oil. And this is really, really simple to make. We're just going for adjustment the ratios, but we're just going for a 50ml double bubble of dark rum, 15ml 1.5 of JD Taylor's Velvet Falernum, and then yes, the aromatic bitters are coming out again. I'm going to do 2 half pipettes. Angostura bitters, 2 dashes. I think you're getting the idea. Angostura bitters or aromatic bitters go really well with dark rum. So just stir that down for about 25, 30 seconds. Shorter if you don't want it as diluted, longer if you want it more diluted. It's up to you. By the way, if you are new to this, I just thought I'd better explain. I know there's going to be a lot of people who know exactly what this is. But Falernum, see it as like a rum liqueur. So this is a liqueur, you can get syrup versions of Falernum. See it as a rum liqueur, really weak, 11% ABV. Yeah, 11% ABV. With added lime, with almond and other kind of sort of Caribbean spices that go in there. It's a really lovely kind of modifier, if you like, but it is slightly alcoholic. If you're making any sort of rum or tiki cocktails, Falernum is a must. Then this glass will probably be a bit too big, but a double old fashioned, you could even go martini glass and just strain that over ice. Then for me, I just love garnishing corn oils with orange, but you could go lime, go whatever you fancy. That is so flipping good. It's essentially like a rum fashioned, an old fashioned with rum, and your modifier is your Falernum instead of like sugar. It's essentially what it is. But that Falernum absolutely makes that. Again, it's those flavours that really complement the sort of more luxurious notes. I keep calling them that of dark rum. It's a fantastic sipper. Maybe my go-to way these days for drinking neat rum, if you like. I flipping love this. Now, we've still got 2 more cocktails, and don't forget my membership community are going to get 5 riffs on this as well. Now, this cocktail is, I'm just going to call this a Rum Manhattan. There may be various other ways, and I have to attribute this to Angostura rum at a rum festival probably 3 years ago. They turned me on to this. Obviously, it was made with Angostura rum. I'm not going to use Angostura rum for this, but I just fell in love with this drink. First class Rum Manhattan. I'm not a massive Manhattan lover, but this really changed my opinion. And I don't know why I got a shaker. It's a stirred cocktail, so I can just reuse it. I thought that was dirty, but I'm just going to reuse this. So we want to start off with 50ml double bubble of your dark rum of choice. Now this little beauty is fantastic. It's an Amaro, it's Angostura's Amaro. Essentially, it's a liqueur version of their Angostura bitters. What more can you say? If you love Angostura bitters, you are going to really, really love this stuff. 20ml. And obviously in the Manhattan, this just replaces your Rosso Vermouth. That's all we're doing here. So we've got a little swap. But 20ml of this kind of liqueur version of Angostura bitters. Now, at Rumfest, Angostura did use their cacao bitters, but I'm going to use Miss Better's chocolate bitters. Go for about 15 drops. Now, I have to say the aroma of this already is magnificent around it. I'm trying to find new words for incredible. I just want to say incredible because they are. It's the chocolate and the Angostura just here. Oh, phenomenal. There we go. Right, stir this down. I think this time we deserve to go into a Nick and Nora glass, so just strain that. And it doesn't really need a garnish, but I'm going to go for a dried orange from Frona. Again, it is so good. The Angostura de Amaro adds that little bit of sweetness. I would say the flavours of that Amaro are not quite as intense as Angostura bitters. Obviously, it's a different sort of balance, but it's the same sort of profile. So don't think you are just adding a lot of Angostura bitters. You're not. But that chocolatey notes from those bitters and the dark rum, all 3 of those just come together harmoniously. It's a great, neat, boozy sipping cocktail without the sweetness of something like that corn and oil. Delicious. Now, your 5th and final cocktail might be a little bit of a sort of a new one for the vast majority of you. I've never made it on this channel. I have made it for myself a few times, and I really, really like it. Now, I found this during my rum journey a couple of years ago. This cocktail was invented in the 50s. It's not a mainstream cocktail. You probably won't ever see it in cocktail books, but I found it online. It was invented in Hollywood, I'd say in the 50s, and it's called the Ciro's Special. And I think we can loosely sort of call this a black, well, in its original guise, a black currant daiquiri. I'm going to change things up just very, very slightly. 50ml double bubble of your dark rum, 20ml of your lime juice. Now, I've never really got cassis here. I don't really use cassis, but I go through bottles and bottles and bottles of creme de mure because The Bramble is one of my core cocktails in my cocktail masterclass business that I do, and I love blackberry liqueur. So we're effectively swapping that cassis, blackcurrant, for blackberry creme de mure. Adjust the taste, but I think the original spec is pretty bang on for this. So 20 ml. And then the final ingredient, which is actually the ingredient that the recipe calls for, is the Pierre Ferrand dry orange curacao. Now again, I think this might have been updated since the 50s, but the piece of text I've seen was sort of taken from the 50s. I don't think this was made back then, so I'm assuming it might be slightly different. But I'm just going to use my bar spoon here because the spec says 5 ml. And I'm just going to double strain this into a smaller sort of coupe, or you could go Nick and Nora glass. And then I'm really sorry, Frona, but I am going fresh blackberries here, simply because the dried blackberries I've got don't really skewer that too well for a little garnish on top of martinis like this. Definitely a very well balanced blackberry daiquiri. If you love blackberry, honestly, those blackberries, those dark fruits, again, is another great flavour for dark rum. It just works so well. And you do get that little faintest hint of the orange that comes through there as well. Great cocktail. Now, membership community, you can dive over into there and check out the sort of follow-on video to this. But for all you sort of dark rum lovers, if you want to check out another video, actually a video I made a few years ago, but some cracking recipes still, check out that video right there.